Welcome back to the Growth Strategist podcast. Today, we are honored to welcome Chris Montgomery, owner partner of River Ranch Roofing and Construction, someone who's built his career navigating on one of the most competitive roofing and construction markets in the country. Chris operates in Central Texas, where standing out isn't about who's the loudest. It's about trust, execution, and doing things the right way over the long term. Chris, appreciate you taking the time today, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, and I think you kicked it off in just the right way. You hit all the nails on the head.
Thanks, brother. I
And I'm gonna
appreciate it.
see how many roofing puns I can squeeze into this.
Yeah, we'll take them. Um,
Yeah, for
how
sure.
you got into this crazy industry to roofing and construction?
Yeah, for sure. And it's so funny because other roofing owners, construction owners that I know, they all have a very unique story on how they jumped in and their path, and mine is not dissimilar to that. So I was a special operations rescue paramedic for a big city here in Central Texas for a number of years. COVID hit, and about that time, the work hours increased. So as a medic, that meant more and more time away from my family, and I wanted a little more balance in that regard. And so, through my father, who had a friend that was a local business owner in the roofing community, I started in roof sales. I did residential roof sales for a number of years, of which I then wanted to expand my knowledge base and then made a jump over to commercial roof sales for a time. And then from there, after I really feel like I got, industry knowledge in both of those sectors, which are very unique in and of themselves. They're completely different approaches, processes. I made a jump to, hey, I think I'm at a position with enough of a we'll call it a clientele base of trusted clients that I can take the reins on this. And what I can do is I can implement my own priorities. I can implement my own objectives and goals and the team that I want to really just take everything to the next level.
That's a very unique perspective, man. I like that. Uh, Started in roofing sales before I transitioned to the public adjusting. Chris, tell me you're operating, in one of the most crowded roofing markets in the country. From your perspective, what would you say some of your biggest bottlenecks are that you're dealing with right now? Like
Yeah, I
lead,
mean, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say if it's like lead quality versus volume, production timelines, crew capacity, let's just say customer expectations. I mean, is there anything that
Yeah, for sure. I think like a lot of others, what might create a hurdle is just low volume during rougher seasons. And what I mean by that is like seasons that are colder, excuse me, that slows down production, right? So the goal is, if possible, to get as far ahead of that as you can. So I firmly believe that getting ahead in those relationships, because like many others, we don't see the result of relationships for many months down the road. So you're investing in relationships for the hope and the prospect of revenue or production down the line. So the further you can get ahead of that, the better. We are positioned in a very unique way where we are very intentional with our overhead. And what I mean
sure,
by that is keeping it low and
sure,
saying no, right? Like my email inbox is full, my calls, my phone is always ringing for opportunities that we could jump on to improve this, that, or that about the business, right? And you said you led a roofing sales thing for a bit, so I'm sure you even felt some of that during that time frame. But it's just kind of the ability to say no and knowing when to say yes on the right thing,
sure.
right? So River Ranch is a fairly grassroots, built up from the ground business. We do have the experience under our belt, but I think to answer your question in a really roundabout way, what's kind of bottlenecking us is we are in the phase of like long-term relationship building.
Right.
In the hope and the prospect that, come March next year when things really do start to pick up, that the time and the efforts that we have invested in these relationships, does prove fruitful for next year.
It takes some time to build those
It does.
contacts and
Yeah.
those relationships with clients and customers. I mean, it's of course you want to. you want to build that network, and let's hope that we get some nice hailstorms in next season, March or April, right?
Wouldn't hurt.
It wouldn't hurt.
Wouldn't hurt.
I wanted to add a quick layer of context here. It definitely overlaps with directly to in Texas. So my background, public adjusting, right? I'm licensed in 4 states. One of them happens to be Texas, and
Okay.
I worked Hurricane Barrel early
Okay.
last year. And I'll tell you, honestly, Texas, with respect to insurance storm restoration work, is most definitely one of the more challenging states I've worked in when it comes to settling claims compared to Florida. I'm sure you're familiar with appraisal, right? When you
Hmm.
reach a point of impasse in the insurance claim process, it's something we execute extremely well here in Florida. And
Hmm.
in Texas, it's the environment is it's just different. Claims take more effort, more time, more precision. Even when the insurance company, the carrier, has open coverage and documentation is presented very well to the carrier, it still is a problem to settle these claims. And then, of course, as I'm sure you're well aware, you get you're starting to see these ACV roof endorsements, cosmetic damage exclusions, 10% deductibles. So ultimately, that out of pocket gap for homeowners, it's significant now, and it changes the timelines, approvals, expectations. And I guess ultimately it's not about, the blame. It's about understanding the rules of the game in Texas. It's just a different beast, man.
Yeah,
What
100%. And
what I noticed.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And it goes back to what we've been talking about, right? It's about those relationships, right? It like having a $2,000 deductible is looks a lot different, right, than a client with a 10 or $15,000 deductible.
Yeah.
Right. That's a different conversation. With the 2000, it might be that the first door knocker that gets to that house wins the job, right? The risk to reward ratio is very slim for a client. They can go with that, first door knocker, whoever makes the first impression, rather than 10 to $15,000. Now we're seeing clients shift into more of a, mindset of like if you were to go to a car dealership, right? They're doing more research. They're doing more background on the company. They're relying more on word of mouth referrals. Are you local? Are you out of town? Are you out of state? Right? There's more of an emphasis and that's what I'm seeing as, kind of priority one with clients.
Excellent. Trust and reputation. You talk about where do you see good contractors unintentionally losing it? I know we touched on that a little bit, like maybe over promising early, or let's just say communication gap, stuff like that, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. So one thing that I've been like very intentional on instilling in my team is the expectation gap. The gap between expectations and reality is only frustration. So however slim or, big you make that gap will directly correlate to your overall review in the end, the process for the client. If you can set yourself up in the beginning of the conversations, and this is a trust building. This is an honest approach. This is a transparent approach. If you can set realistic expectations with the client that, hey, Mr. Homeowner, we might not, and this would obviously not be the best way to approach it, but off the hip, we might not. We don't get every project right 100% of the time. Every time, right? But what we do every time is we make it right if there is an anomaly in something with the project. And what I've seen time and time again is that clients respect that transparency and honesty. And that translates over if there is some kind of hiccup in a project, which if you've been in the business long enough and you can set your pride aside, you're willing to admit that there have been some projects that you've been on that haven't gone 100% correct. But if you have that expectation up front in a transparent, honest way, that translate to a happy client in the end, irregardless, right? As long as you're upholding your end of the agreement and honoring that client throughout the whole process.
I like it. I mean, ultimately, transparency is huge with your clients. Not The reality is not every install is going to be perfect. There's going to be some nails that are going to fall off into the driveway. I mean, it's just
Right.
nobody's, it's not perfect. I mean,
Right.
hey, Mr. Homeowner, it doesn't hurt to take that extra step and just communicate with your clients, man. Say, hey, listen, we're going to go and do a checklist, and we're going to go through each and every component of this install and make sure that everything is to your satisfaction, to your liking. Let's jump into residential versus commercial. Where do you see the most operational friction between the two? Whether it's like estimating, scheduling.
Let's see. I think so for medium to small size business owners, a little bit of that friction comes with the floating capital that you have readily available to take on, larger and larger projects. You know that a commercial project has the potential for a 2 to 3 times longer sales cycle than a residential. Right. So your ROI, your return on investment, looks a little bit different with a commercial client. You could have a hypothetically $500,000 re-roof with very slim margins, high material costs that could eat up a significant portion of your floating capital that was otherwise available for 15 to 20 residential re-roofs. Right. So it's like I said in the beginning, it's a completely different approach. And what I've found that is specifically in the commercial sector, not only is the relationship aspect of it very important and that trust level very important, but another layer of that is to, for them, like to you as well, like, are they going to honor that 30-day payback on the project, that 60-day payback, whatever that looks like. So it's not just trying to earn the commercial client's trust, but also knowing when to say no to a commercial client that might just be a bad customer that, maybe has a reputation, even though the project looks sparkly on the surface, that you get untrustworthy feelings from. Maybe there's opportunity for them to take advantage of us here. You know, so I guess in a roundabout way, it's a completely different approach, and the trust has to be mutual. You have to trust the commercial client as much or more as they are trusting you in that process because you are otherwise investing a whole lot of money in this project in advance with the hopes that they will be honoring their end of the deal.
That is setting you apart from other roofing and GCs in the Texas area. I think commercial in general, it's just a different beast, man. It's harder
Mhm.
to, for me, back in the day, I used to only focus on commercial losses,
Okay.
uh, apartment building complexes with modified bitumen roofing system, mod bits with nice cylindrical fractures on the membrane. Get a half a dozen of those per year on a good season. I mean, that's like 10 to 15 residential,
Right.
roofing claims.
Right. Right.
So at the end of the day, I mean, that can uh, that can definitely increase your revenue, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Uh,
Well, as you know, we have a lot of runway ahead of us. Like I said, while I've been in the business for a number of years, River Ranch Roofing in and of itself is fairly new. So I see it from the perspective as the sky is the limit, right? I think one growth constraint, if there is one, is that we are, like you noted, we are seeing more and more on a month-on-month basis, individual business owners take over and start their own roofing company as a worthy adversary, right? We all carry a Rolodex of a clientele base that has trusted us over the years.
sure.
And so, with respect to your growth question, a limitation on that is that we are in somewhat of a saturated market here in Central Texas. Um, so we are competing with, hundreds of other roofing companies here in Central Texas. What's going to be our niche? What's unique about us? And then owning that entirely, right? You can't muddy the waters with mixed messaging. You have to be very clear in what sets you apart. And then I think, the rest kind of works itself out in that way. But with regard to growth, I think just the level of saturation within my market can be and can prove to be a limitation for
Chris, you continue on with that mindset, and you sure enough will set yourself apart with all the saturated market that you're in, man. I
sure.
think you're heading in the right directions. Let's say in the next 6 to 12 months from now, what would be one thing or one area that you are most focused on improving?
Yeah, I think for us, it's going to be relationship building.
You're
What
just
it
gonna
is.
say probably back to the getting
Yeah.
getting boosting up that network out there,
Right. And
obtaining new clients.
Exactly. Yeah, it's getting involved in the Round Rock local chamber of commerce, and that's not just me. As the business owner, my team knows that my business partner and I, our expectation is that everybody is a stakeholder in their relationship Rolodex.
Yeah.
Right. From every sales guy, it's, what are we doing this week, next week, and the week after? What events are you involved in? What relationships have you built? What realtor groups have you reached out to present to? And then
There you go.
not just one-offing that, right? That's what's important. Not just one-offing, hey, I presented to the local Keller Williams group last week. We're good. They have my information. Move on to Magnolia Realty, up in Round Rock. It's, hey, I presented to Keller Williams. I got a bunch of contacts in that. And then over the course of my entire career here at River Ranch, how can I maintain those relationships
There you
and
go.
honor those relationships? You know what I mean? And there's no secret, right? There's no secret to that. But I also think like where a lot gets lost in this industry is others will pay a whole lot of money for, you know, XYZ in hopes to generate revenue. Where I am of the belief and the perspective that relationships are priority one. Because everybody has a network. Every relationship that you honor has their own network that just spreads and spreads and spreads.
Excellent. So listen, outside of public adjusting, I'm deeply connected with this massive network of AI operators, and one of the leading global AI companies that provides the infrastructure, the tools to entrepreneurs, and it gives them the ability to increase revenue, streamline operations, and gain clarity around what could be leveraged in any company. Would it be a bad idea to meet with you again in another 15 minutes in a couple weeks, maybe?
Yeah, not a bad idea at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, listen, I appreciate your time today. For anyone listening who wants to connect with Chris, what's the best place to find you?
Yeah, I think just through our website would be a great way. Yeah, we have a contact us page on just about every landing page on our website. So it's very much meant to, source right to the right people. So I think that's probably the best way right now.
Excellent. All right, Chris, and I appreciate your time, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
You got it, brother. Take care now.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Later.